Hello, Adrienne Elise here. Welcome to the Gaia Daily for March 19th and 20th. How are you doing? Happy equinox. Wow, the energies are so intense and powerful right now. So let's talk it through. In just about 12 hours from now, which later about 10 o'clock Mountain Time tonight on the 19th, and then throughout the world on the 20th is this equinox, which is when the sun moves over into the sign of Aries. So we are feeling a huge shift of energies. And wow, it's such a juxtaposition right now because, of course, we've got so much happening in the world, so much intensity, and yet these souls and the energies of what's really happening is actually really exciting with these ascension energies coming in, with finally the grid shifting that we can access higher vibrational frequencies. So what seems to be happening right now is that people are going back and forth between these energies. And so you'll find yourself it's almost like we are, and we've been having this for the last couple of years, I feel like, but it's really kind of strong right now, amplified, which is exactly what Jupiter does. There's these different dimensional frequencies, realities, timelines existing right next to each other, and these souls have been kind of like going back and forth between these dimensional frequencies. And this is really powerful right now. And it actually is helpful because it's like, oh, I'm back in the lower. Oh, I feel like I'm having permission to be in the higher frequencies, into the lighter vibration, into the I know it's okay place, into the we're finally moving forward in our spiritual evolution, and then back in the mire with the other this parallel experience. And maybe that's what's trying to happen right now. Is that I'm not sure if these are like timelines trying to come together or pull apart, So we'll see. But those you souls are called right here, right now, to hold space for that optimal timeline and for what is possible and for what why we're here. And so that's what's going on. And the equinox is a huge shift. It's going to make it easier for us with the sun moving over into the sign of Aries, shifting these energies. Now we've still got Mars at 21 degrees Capricorn, and we still have Jupiter at 22. So we've got Mars 21, Jupiter 22, Pluto 24, and it's like so intense. So let's talk through these planets. We've got Mars, which is our desire for action and change and movement and using our will force, standing up for ourselves, the fight, the ruler of Aries, so on the table, it's like Mars is like, yeah, you guys, let's do this, because with the sun moving over into Aries and the new moon on Aries in Aries on Tuesday next week, it's like, oh yeah, this Mars is like, yeah, come on, let's do this. Now Mars is also, the lower octave of Mars is aggression and anger and frustration. And that's pretty interesting because that's definitely on the table right now. And, because we're all being told to just chill out, stay home. You can't have your regular life anymore, and it's like, what is going on here? Nothing's making sense in the world, So there's definitely some heightened frustration, but it's like, what this from the beginning, when I started talking about this conjunction, I felt like there's definitely a divine masculine activation trying to happen. And we are definitely lacking in positive masculine energies, like it's like not cool to kind of use your will and create and stand up for yourself in a way in this world. And so it's like, can we have that without the aggression and the negative? Can we do war in a different way? Because we definitely are at war. But this is a spiritual war. And so we need that divine masculine to land home on the planet and in our own being of like, this is the righteous warrior standing up for what's good and right and true. And that's like, maybe that can be fuel for us to have that permission to be in that higher frequency vibration and to claim our higher truth right now. And so there's Mars. So Mars is like putting a motor on this whole thing. Jupiter is like amplification. It's like a big crystal. And then Pluto, death, rebirth, breakdown. Pluto definitely rules disease. So it makes sense, this energy of pandemic in our world right now, because Pluto is about breaking down and rebuilding, which is exactly what happens in our body when we fight disease. And right now we're fighting a disease of control energies on the planet, and it's like a shadow war that's been going on for so long, and now it's in our face and it's right in front of us, and we're all it's this is the shift that I'm seeing with this divine masculine and Mars and the divine timelines trying to land in. It's like, it's almost like we weren't a part of this fight. We didn't feel a part of it. We were like hoping that the good guys would win. We were on the sidelines, and now we're recognizing, oh, this is our fight, and this is our time, and it's actually really empowering for these souls. And that has to do with this Uranus and Taurus sextile the North Node. And this is like, oh, we have possibility here to like find our worth, our jewels, our treasures, which is our ability to use our consciousness to create the world that we want vibrationally by being in that space, And it's like so hard with the collective consciousness right now. And yet the planets, the stars, the tide is on our side. Nothing can stop this spiritual awakening, and it's been held back for so long. And when that floodgate finally moves, that's what's maybe happening. It's like the dam's breaking, and the world is changing. And we don't get to know exactly what that looks like. But to know that things are actually moving is actually bringing a lot of peace to these souls, even though it's like a constant battle to stay out of the collective garbage energy that's going on right now, and give yourself permission to feel good. And yet maybe sometimes when we're pushed into a corner like that, we have huge breakthroughs. And I'm seeing this in souls being like, whoa, so burdened down with energies they didn't realize, didn't know about, didn't, just kind of trying to make it through life. And then all of a sudden, in these last few days, this last week, being like pushing through to their permission to vibrate at the frequency that they want to vibrate at, that's more true to their spiritual truth. And so that breakthrough energy is really huge right now and very powerful for us. And Uranus and Taurus sextile the North Node is this like, yeah, you got great gifts and you've been burdened down with these heavy energies, and now it's time to excavate. Pluto wants us to excavate and retrieve these gifts, because Pluto is an energy that we don't quite understand yet. It's an energy of the future. It's way out there. It's interesting that the ancient name, septic state is like when the body is having an infection, and that's kind of what we're doing right now. I would say that that's a really great metaphor, because say you got like a splinter and you couldn't get it out, and the body can get it out. See, that's what we kind of need to remember. It's like we think that we're in control, and this is part of our deal with this whole like upside down paradigm in healthcare, where it's like you protect yourself by washing your hands. And that kind of negates the whole thing that we have an immune system that protects us, and we're antisepticing all up all the time. And then what about our good bacteria that naturally fights, So anyway, that's a long, bigger story. But so you've got this splinter, and it's, you can't get it out. And so you just have to let your body get it out, So what it does, it surrounds it with pus, and then eventually kicks it out. And that's a good metaphor for what we're doing right now. We're trying to kick off this control energies off the planet, and we got a really big infection. It's a healing crisis, you know? So we've been talking about that. But so the interesting thing is here now too, is that Mercury, since it's back in Pisces, is going to be coming in to a sextile with Uranus. So Uranus sextile the North Node, Mercury sextile Uranus and Pisces and Pisces and Taurus and Cancer. And then Mercury will be trining the North Node. Beneficial, these angles are all beneficial and helpful in creating that beautiful star pattern for us. And so that's a really great backdrop of this intense infection clearing power game war, but it's also divine timelines trying to land and a divine masculine activation. So Jupiter has this shining the light on the infection. And this is such a state that so many people have in our world of like mild state of ongoing infection because of the healthcare system, suppression. And then we have like our whole body, and that's part of this autoimmune situation is like it has like little infections. And so here we are, Jupiter shining light. Mars says, let's get to work on the war. And so, it all makes sense astrologically. And can we put our attention on those divine timelines coming in? And the possibilities that Uranus and Taurus sextile the North Node and Mercury sextile Uranus. So Mercury in Pisces after that retrograde, in going back into Aquarius and back into Pisces, we're talking about the Aquarian age, a Piscean age, moving from the Piscean age to the Aquarian age. And so it's really powerful, the sextile with Uranus, because it's like Uranus is a ruler of Aquarius, and it's like, okay, we're figuring this stuff out, right? We're figuring out the new grid. We're figuring out the new energies. We're figuring out what it is we're trying to do here. And we know what we don't want. And that's what we were talking about, that this bloom of very scary energies of what could happen if we didn't take our planet back right now. And, where we were heading towards losing all of our freedoms and all the energies of the planets. In Capricorn, we're talking about the structures of our world, of our life. And so, just take that healthcare system, right? Where young kids that are troubled are given way too high of a dose of like very dangerous antipsychotic drugs, which also can make you psychotic, and the suicide rate and just the irresponsibility of our healthcare system. While these doctors and things think they're, brainwashed into thinking they're doing good things, and then the suppression and the drugs. And it's like, it's all about the drugs, and the pharmaceutical energy. It used to be the military industrial complex was the number one money, exchange in the world. And now it's pharmaceutical companies. So this is actually a really great opportunity for that shit to break down, And so that's the systems we're talking about. We're looking at possibly financial reset energy, all the money that's been stolen from us. So it's like, this is exactly fits Pluto, Mars, Jupiter in Capricorn, and this has been happening for a while, and now it's blooming into our face. And we're realizing that it's a collective experience, that we all are on board. We all need to do our part. Now, it's really interesting. This is what part of the energy that's coming up around the messages coming in. Thinking about this divine timeline, thinking about this energy of like, it's written, there's nothing can stop the energy that's coming, the positive energies, the spiritual ascension, the positive timeline. And yet that doesn't mean that nothing's required of us, right? Like we have to step up and play our role when those happen, because that's how it all conjoins together. Right? So just because it's written and nothing can stop it doesn't mean that we don't play a part. And that's what we're being asked to do right now. and uncover those jewels in your consciousness and your power. You realize that you have been flailing around in this world, feeling like you didn't fit in, and nobody else understood what was going on for you, and like trying to wrestle all these energies, and now realize that that's because you have a really great gift. And that's this Uranus and Taurus sextile, exactly sextile the North Node, trying the South Node, and now Mercury coming into the mix and saying, this is how we get to the Aquarian age. We recognize the power of our consciousness. We recognize who we really are as souls. We recognize all the experiences we've had over so many lifetimes, and it's time to implement that. And again, the same, we've been talking about how frustrating it is to not know what you're doing, and still be expected to step up and play your part, right? But a lot of it has to do with joining our consciousness together, knowing we're not alone, which is so interesting because we're all being told to isolate. And yet it's curing us of our isolation in these soul groups. And there's world panic and fear, and it's curing those heavier energies from these soul groups. And can we receive, so Taurus energy has a lot because it's ruled by Venus, and it's a lot about our self-worth and about whether we feel worthy. So a lot of our individual work right now is around receiving. What if it did shift right now and divine timeline came in and all of a sudden you had plenty of money and you had direction, you had support to bring forward your gifts, and you got to live this dream life? Just imagine what that, can you go from like all this shit working against you and like constant attack energetically, and the quarantine of keeping you in a lower vibrational frequency? And what if that's, what if that did a U-turn? Like, do you feel worthy of that? And all of a sudden from like karma to blessings, like landing home. So that's where we have to be like, it's a huge adjustment on all levels of our being. And that's kind of the energy of this equinox, because this is the first shift in these energies and an activation for Mars coming into this mix, and the kind of bringing our attention to, it's like, oh, divine timeline, that sounds so good, but if you don't feel like you deserve it, like, are we pushing it? We know that we have consciousness, pure consciousness, just by existing. We have this in our body, in our field, in our reality, and access to God consciousness in our body just by existing. And so it's like, we've been spending all of these years feeling that, in lifetimes, feeling like we don't deserve God consciousness. And yet quantum, science has shown us, physics has shown us that we are a particle of God, and yet so that seems like an important concept in this shift into the Aquarian age, for sure, because the Aquarian age is about technologies, and technology based on the science we actually have instead of what's in our textbooks. That's another system that needs to get way broken down. Talk about, how about our history, true history? You got to throw all of our textbooks, and how about our whole educational system? It's like from the dark ages, it's like this educational system that was created at the time of the Industrial Revolution. Just feed in information and regurgitate it back up. And there's been little tweaks and changes, but it's like, come on, turn that shit on its head, right? So this is where we're at. And can you receive? Because you're on the cutting edge, and you thought you were behind. You thought you were the one that couldn't get it together in this life. And you actually have it way more together now in this paradigm. And can you allow for that 180-degree turn in your life and start receiving the blessings? Because that's what we're being asked to do right now, is to step up and play our role. And that's our role. So I'm so glad we're here together, and I hope you'll consider joining the Equinox Soul Group session that happens in just less than 12 hours here at 8 p.m. Mountain Time in the US, and tonight, Thursday the 19th. And the information to sign up for that is in the box below. And if you can't make the live, know the replay will have the energy encoded for you, and get your energy there, your questions answered, the clearings that are appropriate for you too. And then also, if you can't even make it at all, just your intention to join and be a part of this group, you energetically, you're all is welcome. And the more the better on this team of what we're doing here. So thanks for being on the team, and try to enjoy these energies and separate yourself from, know that you're here to hold space and vibrate frequency wise on this divine timeline, trying to land in the new possibilities. So hang in there. Thanks for all your great work and being here. I look forward to seeing you soon at the equinox session or the next update. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.